Hello chess fans! Today I'm going to show you my round 1 game of the Canadian Open. So going into this tournament, I decided that I was just going to play openings that I have really never played before and sort of just wing it in the opening. Because I found like one of the problems with my chess personally was that I relied too much on my opening preparation. So in this game, you're going to really see me get a very bad position and manage to squirm my way out of it. So I started off the game with c4, and actually I'm only against the 1800, so I thought that this is a good trial run because, okay, I'm going to play an opening that I really don't know how to play. And already my opponent surprised me with d6. Now, funny enough, I actually have played this from the black side, so that was pretty much the bulk of my knowledge, but honestly, seeing it from the black side and the white side is very different, so I didn't really know what was the most annoying thing to play. So I played knight c3, my opponent went e5, I expected this, I went for g3, I'm just looking to fianchetto my bishop, and here my opponent went for f5. So this is recently becoming a very, very trendy setup. I think I recommended this in one of my videos. And here, for example, after d4, I knew the move was bishop e7. And then if you take, this is not such a good endgame for white, actually, because after c6, your knight sort of dominated. And also your bishop's kind of dominated too. So instead of after bishop g, I went bishop g2 instead of d4, so he goes knight f6, which is the most natural move. And now here I went d4. And I'm not really sure I understand the idea why I did it in this move order. I sort of just remember that d4 bishop e7 is not such a great line. Here maybe it's actually not a good idea because I've already committed bishop g2, and you might be wondering, wait, like aren't you put your bishop, like you play g3 to play bishop g2, right? Like what does it matter if you commit it? But we're gonna see why in a second, because here my opponent played knight c6, but instead of playing knight c6, if he plays bishop e7, here if I play this move knight f3, I'm actually not so happy because after e4 here, knight h4 is not such a good move because the knight doesn't have any retreat square. And now we're going to see this in a later game. What I actually should have done here, instead of going bishop g2, is if I want to play the same line, go d4 here, and now knight f3. And then this would sort of be, okay, actually no, here knight f3, there's maybe problems with knight f4. But, or sorry, if he played knight f6, and then now knight f3, something like this. I think this is the wrong move order. I was supposed to go knight f3 and then d4 first to provoke knight f3. But now here after e4, knight h4, here's my setup sort of makes sense because my knight's never going to get trapped by this move g5 or bishop here and this knight moving because I always have g2. And I can even commit to bishop g5 and h6 becomes, kind of weakening of these light squares. So I learned this later in the game, but at this point I didn't know what I was doing, and he played knight c6. Which is, at this point, I'm officially out of theory because I really have never seen this move even from the black side, and I think it's not such a bad move. And here I spent a long time calculating. I think I already spent 15 minutes, and that's something I think I needed to learn from this tournament as well, is that I was spending way too long in the opening, but, playing openings I don't really know how to play. I mean, I sort of expected that. So here I was thinking for a long time, and my main move was sort of takes. And after takes, I was planning to go bishop takes, and then go queen takes here, and then go knight f3. And I rejected this because after bishop d6, I didn't really see a move. For example, if I play a move like bishop d2, I thought that he can just go c5, and I played g3, which I didn't want to play. His bishop gets to b7. I thought he has some nice play. Now, what I actually miss is this move c5, and after takes, I just have a fork. So this shouldn't really be too difficult, but actually he does have a way to prevent it. Now if I take, I'm maybe in some trouble with here or here. Maybe he gets some activity. But yeah, I didn't see any of that. I just didn't even consider this move c5, just giving up a pawn. Would have been really nice if I went for that. So I think that was definitely my best option, and if you ever get this in your game, don't be worried about knight takes because then, okay, their knight spent a million moves and they just have a very bad Dutch because, they'd never take with the knight. So instead of after knight c6, instead of that, another thing I could have also played was this move d5, which I didn't consider as heavily because, okay, it looks like I'm in a King's Indian down a tempo, and here I saw this move bishop g5. And then I thought, okay, I'm maybe not in a King's Indian down tempo because, okay, he can't play this move g6 because he just loses his knight. And I actually rejected this because of knight g8, which is, knight e g8, which is just a really weird move. And for example, here if I played h4, I thought that he can just go here. Now he's traded off my good bishop. He's putting pressure on the center. Because if he played another move, like knight g6, I thought, oh, I go e4. Now if he goes here, takes, I can go takes here. Now, for one, I have knight f5 ideas. For two, I also have knight b5 ideas, now that the queen is moved. But yeah, after seeing knight g8, I think that I just sort of rejected this line. But apparently this is best, and after h6, sorry, after h6 in this position, I totally missed that I didn't have to take here, and I can just go back. And if I saw this, I definitely would have gone for this line, because now, okay, your knight's looking a little bit silly, and I gain my tempos back with like knight e7 or whatever. Okay, so those are the two moves that I could have played. Instead, I went knight f3, which I think at this point is just a mistake. And it's for the reason I said before. I've committed bishop g2, my knight doesn't belong on h4. So my opponent goes e4, and here I was really worried. If I go knight h4, I'm worried about some like d5 and some g5 ideas. And if I go knight g5, I was worried that maybe immediately he could go h6, knight here, g5. And apparently here I had f3. I didn't like f3 because here I can't take with the bishop because of g4, so I had to take with the pawn. And here I evaluate this position as I'm maybe slightly worse because my knight just looks horrible. My king's going to have to move. But apparently I'm better here. And now I see the position, like it sort of starts to make sense. But yeah, I think in the game this was very hard to evaluate. So instead of that, after e4, I went knight g1, which is just a really, really sad move, unfortunately. And yeah, it's just definitely not a move you want to play here. I'm giving my opponent e4 for free, so it's essentially as if they're playing white. And here I think my opponent played a really good move. And this is one of the things when you play kids, is that they don't sort of, often when you play a kid, especially if they're playing an opening for the first time, they often don't know these plans so much. Like, for example, here, the regular plan with black is to go like here, castles, bishop d7, and then go like queen e8, g5 or something like that. That's h6, g5. That's like your sort of regular idea, and then f4 at some point. But here my opponent just sort of plays the objectively best move on the board, which is d5. Like, he doesn't care he played d6, he just plays d5. And I saw this move from afar, but I just like completely underestimated this, because I thought, okay, it shouldn't be good, right? Because you're playing d6 and then d5. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, here I got way too overzealous, and I ended up playing a move which I think that if I played against a 2000 or even a 2200, that I would have got severely punished for. So I ended up playing this move, bishop g5, and this move is a little bit, how do you call it, way too greedy. So my idea is I want to play e3, but I don't want my bishop to be locked behind, because I don't want to play a French. I'm playing white. Why do I have to play a French? I really should have just admitted it. After takes, what I saw is knight h3. Okay, I'm threatening to go for bishop g5. So what does he do? He goes bishop b4 so that I have to defend this. And then, for example, if I play a move like queen c2, I lose on d4. So I have to go bishop d2. And then if he goes here, I think there's some tactics like this that I saw that were doing pretty well for me. So instead of that, I thought that he could just go for knight f6. And then here, I have to go e3 anyways, and my bishop's stuck in the pawn chain. And I saw this position, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just playing like a bad French because, okay, why is my bishop on g2? But apparently this was best, and yeah, now that I'm seeing it, maybe it's kind of reasonable because they can't go bishop e6 on account of knight f4. But yeah, during the game, I just didn't want to play French, so I played bishop g5, and then he just took here, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I'm so much worse. What did I do? Like, I realize now that I should have gone for that position where I'm just playing a French, and I was just kicking myself. And yeah, here I'm already down like 20-30 minutes. So I think my opponent is at like an hour 26 or something. They haven't taken long on any of their moves, and I'm at like an hour. So I'm down a bunch of time. I spent way too much time. And here again, I play a bad move with d5. And I'm actually going to turn the engine off now so we can get my actual thoughts instead of like these engine lines. But here, yeah, my opponent played knight e5, which I was expecting. Here I played queen d4. My idea was sometimes he has bishop c5. If I go f3 right away, he can go bishop c5, and after takes, he has knight g4. So I played queen d4 to prevent bishop c5, bishop d6, f3. And yeah, here I was also considering this move f4. We're going to see why in a second. I'm really glad I did not play f4. But I was worried about him just going back. And then after queen takes, for example, h6, here the engine says bishop h4, but I was just going to take. And after queen takes, I just look like so much worse. This bishop is just a dead piece. There's just no way for it to get in the game, and this pawn is sort of weak. And I thought he could go a6, b5 next, and I'm much, 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 much worse. I have to go for e3. The queen doesn't even have a home. He can go b5, bishop b7. I thought I'm pretty much losing here. And we're going to see the reason why I want to play f4, because I decided to play f3. And I'm really glad I did this, because at the end of the day, I realized that, okay, I have to win this game, right? Because my opponent is 400 points lower rated than me. And not only do I have to win this game, I have to somehow find a way for him to make a mistake. And I thought that the best move here makes the game go crazy. So what I calculated here is that after queen e7, if I take this pawn, he has bishop c5, queen d4, and knight e4. And how do I defend this? If I play a move like Knight h3, for example, defending this. I'm trying to remember, what did I think was very strong here for white. There was a move. Oh yeah, wait, he can just take the pawn back, actually. And then if I take here, he can just take, because he's attacking the queen. So yeah, he can just take the pawn back there, and now I can't castle, and all my pieces are bad. He's also threatening this move e3, so I'm completely lost here. So I didn't think about knight h3, and then now, for example, if I take here, he has bishop e3. I remember seeing this one, and then after bishop takes here, he's on my bishop, and he's on my pawn. He's also threatening bishop takes f5 with another fork threat. So here I'm completely losing after maybe bishop f3, bishop f5. I can't even castle queenside, yeah, so I'd have to go like rook c1, because the knight prevents castling queenside. So yeah, here I'm just completely lost. So I saw I couldn't play those two moves. So yeah, what do I really do? And what I thought I would do is I would go bishop takes, or sorry, instead after bishop c5 I would go bishop takes, because there he could, he could just fork me on f2 or go bishop f2. G takes, and now queen d2, with the idea that after knight g4 here, and if he were to take here, I thought I'd castle e3, and there's no knight f2. And yeah, that was the whole idea, is that there's no knight on e3 that's preventing me from playing e2, like there was in this position. So, and if he goes knight f3, then I would have bishop f3 takes, which looks like it's hitting both my pieces, but here I have a nice bishop h7. Or sorry, bishop f5, and then knight f4, knight f2, and I thought, okay, maybe I'm losing. I think I'm down a pawn here, right? He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm down a pawn, but I thought, okay, maybe I win this pawn back. I can dream. I thought I'm probably pretty much losing here, but I have some chances. And yeah, here I was just really worried he'd go in that line. I was thinking, okay, I'm about to be completely lost against like a 1700 or a 1800. He's 1700 FIDE, I think. And yeah, thankfully for me, he played e takes f3, which I just completely, I can't understand the move. I mean, queen e7 is just completely winning, but I guess my opponent was not a pawn sacrificer, and I got pretty lucky. Since my opponent was a kid, I expected them to play that move, but okay, I took with the knight. They took back. I took here. Now here I was really happy, and my opponent told me after the game, like, okay, they thought e takes f3 was a really good move because now I just have a backwards e pawn. But like, that's just not how you play chess, right? Like, my pawn is backwards, yeah, sure, but like, you had a completely winning position. Now you maybe have slightly better position. It's not even clear. Like, it's very unclear who's better here because my pawn on d5 does make your bishop quite bad. So yeah, it's very difficult now. I castled, or sorry, my opponent castled. I took on c4, and now he played h6, which again, I think h6 is a bad move. Which might look weird at first, like how can h6 be a bad move? But here I was really expecting this move a6. And the idea is that actually my bishop is bad on g5. Like, what does my bishop do on g5? I feel like it's just going to get hit by a tempo or something like that. Without this move h6, which I think is a little bit of a waste of a move. But I played h6, bishop f4. And I wanted to play bishop f4 because he's always threatening this f4 move. a6 now, which, okay, he has to play a6 at some point. I castled. And now this move g5, and again, g5 is just like, I think my opponent started going the wrong way here. Really, there was pretty much no need to commit this. The engine says it's actually a good move, but here I was much more worried about here, queen d4, and something like bishop b7. Or even takes. I probably have to take with the queen, and then bishop b7. I thought that this was sort of much more natural idea with queen d7, rook d8 coming, b4 ideas. Maybe you can put pressure on this pawn, but even if you don't have to do that, you could even... Yeah, I guess you do have to do that, don't you? Okay, wait, this hangs the pawn. Yeah, I'm tripping. So yeah, queen d6 first, maybe. And then if takes, now bishop here, and b4 ideas come into play. Yeah, sorry. That was definitely my idea. Okay, but g5 was played instead, and now here he took with the queen. If he could also take with the pawn, I thought this was very, very reasonable, because now this pawn is weak, b5 is coming. I think the reason my opponent didn't decide to play this was because of a4. And now it's sort of unclear, but maybe, does he have b5 right away? Oh no, sorry, I have queen c7. Yeah, okay, so yeah, he had to take, and then after a4, I mean, it's a little bit unclear. Maybe black's probably still better, but now it's becoming like sort of dicey. Like if I get a4, a5, plan a knight on b6, maybe his knight gets d7 and these outposts, but it's unclear. Okay, but he took with the queen. Now here I went king h1, because I don't know why I thought he was turning queen b6, but I have d6 just winning the game after that, so I thought I might as well go king h1 so that I thought he was just going to go king g7 or something, and then, you know, our moves make sense. King h1, but he just went bishop d7. I'm just like, oh, wait, why did I do that? And here I made another very bad move, actually. So up to this point, as white, I haven't played so bad. King h1 is sort of bad. I should probably just go queen d4 or rook d1, not care about, you know, this imaginary threat. Or, sorry, I should probably go a4 even to prevent b5. But I went king h1 here, queen d3. Again, yeah, really I should be going queen d4 here. And I end up playing this move, queen d3 to d4 in the game. Just a waste of a move. Okay, but rook a8, rook d1, queen e5. Yeah, queen e5 again is, again, the start of going in the wrong direction. Really what my opponent had to do here was b5 and sort of try to put pressure here with rook e5, maybe rook e8. But my opponent started getting a little bit, off track here. So here you went g4, bishop g2, and now b5. And now already, this is sort of the start of the wrong plan. When you can put pressure on d5 with b5, it seems fine. But after here, takes, now bishop c8. Now he goes with bishop c8 to try and threaten the pawn. Already it's starting to feel like my position is good because I'm controlling this. The c7 pawn is backwards. Already it's starting to look up. And he's created a backwards pawn with g4, g5. So here I went king g1. I mean, it's pretty much the only move, right? Because I want to get my king in. King g7. And here I played a really innocuous move. I really have no idea why I played this move. It's such a bad move. And like the most natural move, if you're thinking, oh, he just went king g7, is, okay, go king f2, right? Go king f2, like here, or even like if you want to have an idea, go rook e3. I was worried about here and this, but yeah, okay, maybe this is even better what I did in the game. Do I have 94? No, because he can take with the rook. Yeah, but maybe this is better than what I did in the game. He doesn't have 94 again because I go here, and if rook e5, e3, and then knight c3, then I should be doing well. So all these moves were better than the move I played, but I played rook f2, and I don't even know what my idea was with this move. My idea was I wanted to get the king to c1. And it's important to know here. Here I'm at like 5-6ish minutes. And my opponent, I think, is at like 30 or 40 minutes. Something like that. Actually, I have the notation with me right here. So I can completely just check. So this point, yeah, after king g1, I have 9 minutes. And my opponent had 20 minutes, actually. So maybe he had a little bit more time. But okay. He decided to play rook e5, which is a very nice move. Now his idea is clear, right? He's defending the pawn, so he can prepare the bishop to move. I played a4. Yeah, here I really had no idea what to do, so I just decided to play a4. I'm curious, what does the engine think here? Okay, all the moves are pretty much equal. I should go rook f1. Yeah, I'm not going to play rook f1 because I just played there, but bishop d7. Yeah, bishop d7 was a very nice move. I completely overlooked it. Here I was really sort of just thinking he'd take, and then in which case I was thinking I would take, and I can defend from here, and then maybe get the knight to b4. That was one of my ideas, to try and win a6. But here he took, and he took with the bishop. Again, this was another move I sort of underestimated, which was one of my ideas of rook f2 was so that I could play e4, and there would be no pin. But I underestimated him doing that anyways. So e4 is, again, a good move, but I'm getting rid of a backwards pawn. Maybe it was best to sort of avoid trades. I'm curious. Yeah, the engine says that I should probably just go like d6 or something. cd, cd. I mean, now this pawn looks really weak. But this is probably what I should have done to keep pieces on the board. Instead, I went here. And now I have to take with the bishop. If I took with the knight, then he takes on d5. So I have to take with the bishop. He took. I took back. He took. I took. And now here, I have no idea why my opponent didn't go rook e8. Like, I got to this position. I think I had 2 minutes. I saw rook e8. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just probably slightly worse. And I have no chances of winning this game. Like, how did this happen? Like, I thought I came back in the game. Like, here, check, king g2, and I mean, there's nothing. He could even go like c6. Actually, no, c6 loses to d6. That would be a tragic way to lose the game. But oh no, c6, d6. Oh yeah, he doesn't have rook d8. Yeah, that's why, because the knight takes. So knight c3, rook e1, king g2. I guess he can't approach. Maybe he saw this position and was thought it was unpleasant. Like here, yeah, maybe it's not so easy. King h1. I guess you have to go h5 probably. Takes, rook c2. I mean, actually, it's not the, because here I have here, takes. I mean, maybe it's not the easiest position in the world to sort of sort of see it's drawn. But yeah, I really expected rook e8 here, or rook d8 also looks reasonable, but rook e8 looks better. But here he went takes, which I thought was just a bad move, because he was expecting takes here, bishop c4, maybe takes, and then, you know, maybe it's a pretty easy draw, because, okay, he has a 2-on-1. But here I played king takes f2. And at first this move, maybe this position just looks like an easy draw. And maybe it is an easy draw, but you're going to see here why the title of the video is probably how to grind an endgame. Because from this point, up to this point in the game, I have not proven at all why I'm 2200. I have pretty much shown that I don't have any opening knowledge, that I can outplay an 1800 a little bit in a worse middle game, but not so much that I get a winning position, so much as I get an equal position, which is fair. But now here's where my third skill, which I've been working on a lot recently, endgames. I've recently been doing a lot of endgames, and I think it finally paid off, because I remember a lot of ideas from this game were ideas I've seen from the endgame things I've studied, from these endgame tactics I've looked at, from these endgame books I started reading. A lot of the ideas was just slowly identify where you can create weaknesses, how you can improve your pieces, and how you can limit your opponent's counterplay. And these things were all in the back of my head. I was always thinking about them. So my opponent goes bishop c4. Now if I go here, I actually just lose. So I had to go d6 instead, and then he took. I mean, if he goes here, I make a queen. So he has to take. He went bishop d5, I went king e3, and now I'm the first to get to the center. So already it can be seen that I have a small advantage. And just for spoilers, I have looked at this game with the engine after the game. So I know that I did play it quite accurately, but I didn't play it very, very accurately. And I will look at the engine at certain points. So after king e6, I play this move knight f5. Now this actually gives up all the advantage. But apparently here, after king e6, I can win with this move knight e8. For example, if like bishop b7 or whatever, or say if bishop f3, I have a fork. So he has to go like bishop b7. And then maybe king c5 is winning. I was probably worried about something like this here. But then knight g7, king e4, king c7, and the bishop is trapped. And he has to trade off the bishop. And if he goes bishop f5, for example, takes here, and I win. So maybe this was more clear, but here he might still be drawing after this move king d6. And it's unclear what's happening here, like b4, king d5. Yeah, it's hard to say what's happening. It's probably still a draw. But here he went king f6, and I went knight f5. And at this point, my opponent's at like 12 minutes, and I'm like at like 2 or 1 minute. Like I have pretty much no time. And my idea with this move is just I'm simply going to get my opponent to think. Now, at first, it looks like my opponent is completely lost. If they take, I take here. And then, okay, this is just, I mean, pretty clearly lost, right? Like here, and then, you know, they just run out of moves. Here, king e6, here. Wait. Here. H4. Wait, how am I supposed to win this? Wait, what? Takes. H5. Oh, yeah, b4. And then king g5 here. And then this is just an easy win. Yeah, I was remembering it's easy win if he takes. And then what he had to see here is that, okay, if he moves his bishop anywhere, I just take here and I win this pawn. But what he had to see is that bishop f3 takes king f6, and now there's no way to avoid the draw. For example, if king e3, he can go king g6. Oh, I think I disconnected. King e3, king g6. Okay, yeah, I disconnected, but after king g6, knight f3, king f7, and then the only square that my knight can go to is knight h6. He can't go to e7 or f6, so he has to go to e6. Then he goes king g6, and now I can't go here because the bishop takes. I can't go here because the king takes. Can't go here because the king takes. So I have to go knight back to h6. So just here, and this is what it would just be a draw, right? So I don't want to draw, so I didn't take there. I had to go knight h4. My opponent went bishop d1, knight g6 again. Now here I thought I made, okay, some progress. I'm threatening takes king f3, so he has to move his bishop. Knight g6. I got my knight to f4. First, maybe minor success. Then I went knight c7. So this was the next thing I realized. So in any endgame, let's say we have a position where I do get a passer on this side of the board. this is where I think the endgame book really helped me. If I do get an endgame on this, like with a passer on this side of the board, I need to keep the other pawn on this side of the, like the other pawn, such that, you know, that he can't trade him off easily, because then bishop versus pawn will just be a draw. So what I wanted to do is get his pawn to a4. What does that mean? That the only way his king can attack my pawn is from c4. It can't come through a4. And that was a really important idea actually in the game. We're going to see in like 20 moves. And so that was what I first thought about improving. Knight c7, a5, knight d5. So I provoked this move a5. And now once the pawn on a5 is on a5, it has to go to a4. There's pretty much no chance, because it's staying on a dark square. It's going to have to be defended. So here, knight e3, king g5, king e5, h5. It doesn't matter. Okay, now I go knight c4. He has to go a4. So that was my idea. My first idea is complete. I have pushed the pawn to a4. Now the game is a little bit easier to win. Now my opponent actually maybe could have even avoided this by not going for this move bishop a4, by maybe going like bishop d1 instead. But it's hard because after knight a5 he'd have bishop here. So it's hard to say if he needs to allow this. It's maybe like it's no need. Like, sorry, it maybe doesn't matter, but okay, it would be nice to if he allowed it, or if he prevented it, but he allowed me to do it. So already, yeah, now my opponent and me are both at like 3 minutes, probably, because I've gained some time with the increment, and it's becoming increasingly more difficult. So knight d6, bishop c6, knight e4. Now again, I'm threatening him to go for this endgame, and then, you know, it's an easy win, because I promote. Bishop c6, knight c3, king here, knight e2. Okay, I want to get my knight to f5, or I want to go to e4, sometimes to go e6. And then here my opponent sort of cracks under the pressure. So yeah, it's so, one of the hardest things in chess is to just do nothing. And here I think my opponent really had to realize that he can't do anything. Now I think what my opponent worried about was after king g6, knight d4 for something, or something, bishop d7 here, maybe bishop d7, king b5. My opponent was like, am I losing here because, you know, I can't create a passer. I can't go here. If I go here, I can't go forward. So I'd have to go here and then knight b5. But he had to pretty much just calculate that this line is just a draw. You had to just calculate, I could win this pawn, but you have enough time to run over. And my opponent didn't calculate that and just played h4, which is a natural idea, right? Trading pawns. And I told my opponent, I think this is like not losing. You're probably still drawing, but it's making another weakness. You can defend your pawn. To put in perspective why it's a mistake, you can defend your pawn from 2 squares here, and I can never kick you out. I can never kick you out of this, defending this h5 pawn. But this pawn I can kick you out of defending. So we're going to see. He went h4 here, takes. He just wanted to trade pawns. Now he has to move his bishop f3. Now I went knight e6, king h5, knight c5, attacking the pawn, bishop d1, and now king f4. And now it's already becoming difficult. Like, am I going to win this pawn? If my knight gets to f3, or if my knight gets to f6, I'm just winning the pawn, because he can't defend it. So king here, knight e4, I'm preventing the king from coming closer, king f7, and now I have knight f2, right? Don't I have a fork? Bishop e2. And then I think a lot of lower rated players here might just take the pawn. And I just want to preface this with the endgame is still drawn. So actually, if you take the pawn, it's actually just a very easy draw. Now I can't move the king because my knight's hanging, so I have to move the knight. Now king d5. And now it's sort of just a quite easily drawn position, I think. Because the king's going to get to b3 and then go a3. And then at that point, it's just an easy draw. So, I don't know, bishop h5 or something. King d2, king here, check, here, king b3, g4, and a3. And then this is just the easiest way to draw. So I knew I couldn't take the pawn. So I can't take the pawn, so what do? Continue improving. I'm trying to make his king go back so that maybe I can take the pawn on better circumstances. So he went back, king g4, knight e5. Now I want to go here. And then he can't defend the a4 pawn. And if I get the a4 pawn and the g4 pawn, if I win both these pawns, maybe it's, you know, maybe I can win. It seems like I'm probably winning. So bishop d1, he has to go here to defend the pawn. Knight c3. Bishop e3, okay, you know, you have to keep defense. But now king f4. I'm threatening to take here now. And now you're not getting this a3 move. Now here I built up around 5 minutes, and after king f4 I calculated that king f6 was losing. And I also calculated that king h5 was probably losing, but I didn't see all the way to the win. So king f6, my idea was king g4, king e5, king f3, king d4, king e2. And here I thought my opponent might think they're clever and play this move a3. But then I had knight b5, forking the king and the pawn. And I thought after king e4, knight takes here, I mean, it's got to be game over, right? I'm up 2 pawns. It's not. It's a draw. And realizing this, I think this is why a GM might draw this position. Like realizing you're 2 pawns down, but because the pawns are not advanced, it's a draw. And I have no way to push one of the pawns and block it with the knight. One of the pawns is going to have to be sacrificed. For example, king d, or I don't know, bishop wherever. Maybe bishop here to prevent g4. I'd have to go king d2. I pretty much have to sacrifice the pawns because what else do I do? He's going to go bishop g4 here and then here. So I have to sacrifice one of the pawns. So bishop e6 here, king f3, king c3, takes here, and it's just an easy draw. Here, he rushes back, and no need to talk about any result of this game. But yeah, obviously, you know, that's an incredibly difficult idea to see. Like, you have to give up the pawn with a3. And the reason why a3 is very critical, I mean, it's also possible to draw like this, but then this, you're not getting a3 off, right? That's your, or sorry, this I also win the pawn. Yeah. I remember that was my idea. And then if bishop c2, yeah, I didn't see bishop c2 maybe, but okay, yeah, that's very difficult to see. But he played king h5. He has like, I don't know, 2 minutes on his clock, and it's already an incredibly difficult position. So knight e4, bishop d1, and now knight f6, and I've gotten pretty much what I wanted. After king g6, knight g4, he can't rush over to the king side. So I've won the pawn without allowing him to go over to the king side. So I've made a lot of progress here, I thought. And during the game, I was getting really excited. I'm starting to think, okay, maybe my position is close to winning. So here I went my opponent went king f7, knight e3. And like, I knew this whole time it should still be a draw. Bishop e2, king f5, king e7, king e5. And here he goes king d7. And king d7 is maybe another bad move. Now, it doesn't lose the game or anything. It's still probably a draw. But here I had this move knight d5. And then, for example, after here, I still have this. Right? I win the pawn. And now it's maybe winning because my king's not active enough. And, okay, what else does he do? He can't move the king. Okay, what if he defends this? Then maybe I have g4. Now I'm getting away. So he has to defend this and prevent g4. Bishop d1 is the only move. And maybe he's still drawing this, but, okay, it's pretty difficult. g4, bishop takes g4, I have a fork. So then bishop e3, g5, bishop c2. Yeah, it's hard to really say what's happening here. And the database says draw, but okay, knight d5 was clearly the way to go. But I went g4, which is not a bad move per se. And here I thought my opponent actually, during the game here after g4, I thought my opponent made the losing move, which was king c6. And here I did calculate a really long line, which I thought that won. Because here I'd built up around 5 or 6 minutes at this point. And here I thought this move g5, bishop h5, knight d5. I've actually seen this exact idea. This bishop cannot defend this pawn against the knight because of a sort of idea we're going to see. And this is actually in the book, Endgame book I was reading. So again, I was like, I'm such a genius for reading that Endgame book. I read the chapter on knights versus bishops, and I remember this motif. So after knight d5, bishop e8, here you have this move knight e4, and on king b5, I saw king f6, king c4, king e7. And now the bishop has to get off this diagonal. It can't stay because the knight's going to take it. And here I thought I was a genius and that I found this brilliant win. But here they have bishop c6, g6, and bishop e4. And now here, in the book, there's this similar tactic. After g7, bishop h7, there's knight h5. And I'm going to go knight h6. They have to get off the diagonal. If they go bishop g8 here, you know, there's nowhere to stay on the diagonal. But after knight f6, they have king b3. which is just okay. This is absolutely insane. I ended up not playing it, not because I saw this. I saw this was winning, but then I sort of just was like, is it winning? Like one small move error means I'm drawn, and I'm very glad I didn't go for this because then after knight f6 takes a3. If he goes here, this is just a known draw. Even with a knight on the board, it doesn't matter. So I'm so thankful I didn't go for this. This is 10 moves. I saw up to here, g7, bishop h7, and I think I thought he had bishop g8. I think this is what I miscalculated. I thought he had bishop g8 and knight f6, and then somehow I didn't see. I thought his bishop was getting out. But yeah, there's a very similar tactic to this in the book. And yeah, so I had to see all this by playing g5. So I decided to play. I thought king e7 prevents this because now, okay, the bishop has a nice home. And there's no king f6 or anything. But then he went king c6, and maybe this was a good move by him because now I spent 20 minutes, or not 20 minutes, I spent like 3 minutes, and I played king d4, which is just, you know, a passive move. King b5, I had to go king c3. It's my only move pretty much. King c5, and now here I went g5 with the idea now, after here, I have knight g2. And he can't approach me because I go knight f4. So he had to go king d6, king d4, and now it's a pretty easy draw. I think that bishop f7 or bishop g4 or bishop g6, any of these moves should just quite easily draw. Just get on this diagonal and I have no way to push the pawn. Your king can approach, yes, but neither can my king. If my king ever comes to threaten here, you can start running for this pawn and sacrifice your bishop. So yeah, it's hard to see, but maybe this is just a draw. But thankfully for me, my opponent didn't play that. King e7. Now we see the first blunder. So my opponent has finally cracked. I've put all this pressure on them from this completely drawn endgame, and now I finally managed to do it. And I throw. I think I had like 1 minute here, and I just played king e5, sorry, king f7, and now I throw. Now here I didn't see the winning idea. I saw the winning idea just a few moves later. I realized I made a mistake. But here I went knight f4. And I understand now why this is a loss. Is because my king, so my opponent should have gone bishop g4. And now my king can't approach. Now, we're going to wait 1 second. King f5. Here I realized my mistake. My king can't approach. But basically, here I realized the only way to make progress is if I can get a knight to f5. Because a knight to h5, for example, if he goes after bishop e3, if I go knight h5, how do I make progress? I have to get the knight to f5 again, so that I can go knight h6 or knight e7. So here I played a really nice move, I thought. My opponent didn't see bishop g4 yet. Like, again, bishop g4 is just such a draw. And I realized, I didn't see it during the game, but I knew I should have gone knight h4. And yeah, here I don't have anything to do. But bishop d1, g6, and now I get my king over. And now knight g2, knight here, and now I get knight f5. And at this point, I thought it was a pretty easy win. I go g7, threatening to promote, king e8. And here I could have just done this, takes, and run the king back, and I could have won. But I decided to go for king e5 because, you know, why? I'm in no rush. He can't prevent me from going here. King d7. Now I did this. Now we got this. And my opponent went a3. But here's the last instructive moment. If black plays king a5, what are you doing as white? So I recommend pausing the video, thinking about what you do. I did see this in the game. I know what to do here. But really make sure you take your time, because there's still a way to lose this position. Not lose this position, but still a way to throw. King c4 looks like the most natural move, right? King goes back, and then you win the pawn. a3, and you lost. You drew. Takes kings here, and you've just completely drawn. You threw the game, man. But you thought you were clever. You thought, oh, okay, so I can't go king c4, so let me just go king c2. King b4. Move your knight. a3. And I'm trading the pawns. Now you can't stop me from queening, and I traded the pawns. So there's still ways to mess up. And this is what you always need to try as a practical player. My opponent really should have gone king a5. And I actually saw this all in the game. I saw it all in the game. I saw that if I go king c4 or king c2 that I would lose the game. Because I think I'd built up like 8 minutes now because I'd started playing moves very quickly. So, yeah, my opponent really should have tried this. Instead, they went a3. And, okay, now it's just to show you how to win this pawn. All you have to do, push them to the 7th rank. or to the 8th rank, and now you can go a7. And then now you could even go knight c7 first, pushing them out of the corner, but I saw a clean mate after a7. My opponent resigned. But here, if they go here, they really should have allowed this mate. You know, they pushed me through 108 moves. You should just let me have this mate. And if king c8, I saw nicely, I have king c8 or king c6, and then after here, a nice promote to a rook with checkmate. So yeah, a really long video. I think that I did such a long video because I think I played this endgame really decently. Okay, I missed knight h5. I realized it was a good move, and I played the opening very badly. But this is sort of the start of, even though I played a bad game, I feel good about this game because I did something that I usually don't do. Usually I just wipe my opponents off the board with tactics, and you know, I don't win these slightly better endgames. But yeah, this tournament I was trying to challenge myself to play in a way I don't usually play. I played positionally, I played an opening I don't know, I got a bad position, and I beat them in an equal endgame. That's something that I think that I definitely need to learn to do to beat these lower rated players, rather than going crazy, in which case if I'm against a little kid, you know, I can probably lose that game because their tactics are what, 2900, 3000, same, and their, you know, rating is like 1200 or something. So yeah, I think it was a very good practical decision by me to play this way against this guy, and clearly I think I learned a lot from it. I used the endgame things that I learned in my book, and I was able to apply them really nice. So I was really happy with this win. I thought that even though it was probably a draw, I thought I played the game really well, and yeah, I was happy with everything except for the opening. So yeah, that's it today's video, guys. I'm going to probably upload round 2 next week, and I probably will upload all the games because this tournament, yeah, we're going to see in the next games, it was very, very bad. But yeah, that's in today's video, guys, and we're going to see you in the next video.